Welcome back to another episode of Bike Talk with BikeLane. This is Bike Checks with Ed. I'm Ed, and this is something exciting. This is the Collective C100 Pro. So this bike has recently been introduced to the US. This bike is originally from the UK. Collective Bikes is a UK company. This bike has been brought in now specifically for wheelies. So this is actually a really interesting bike. It's a really nice build. Good job, Collective, by the way. So this is a mountain bike / wheelie bike. It's kind of just your all-around street bike. So we're going to start with the frame here. So this is a full aluminum frame. The geometry of the bike is meant to be tight. So we have a 19-inch top tube. So it's short, so it gives you a little more control. We also have a short rear end, which is going to make the bike a lot more agile as well. So it'll kind of swerve a little faster. Collective went ahead and thought about tire clearance, and they gave you plenty of clearance in the back. On here, we do have a 2.0 tire. You have plenty of clearance to run up to like a 3.0, including in the fork. So you have plenty of space if you want to get a little wider on there, a little plumpier. So moving on from the frame, jumping up to the cockpit. So Collective gives you their Collective handlebar, which is a 29.5-inch, 31/8 handlebar size straight bar. So this is a mountain bike bar. So it's meant to be flat and stable. The wider the bar, the more stable your bike's going to be, and the easier you can maneuver your bike. On these handlebars, we have Collective grips, which are kind of like a BMX style rubber grip with flanges on them. These are pretty comfortable grips. I can feel your hands getting a little sweaty. I would definitely consider upgrading them in the future. So on this handlebar, we also have a Dior 10-speed shifter, which is the drivetrain, which we're going to get to later. This is a thumb shifter, which you can push with your thumb, and you can release with your pointer finger as well, or with your thumb. So you have two ways of releasing, which is a really nice shifter. It does have a window indicator, which can be eliminated if you need. So holding on this bar, we have a Collective Bikes 50mm reach stem. So this is a BMX style stem. It has no upsweep to it. It's just a straight stem. A 50mm reach is a very short reach, so you have plenty of bike control. The shorter the stem, the more the bike's gonna feel super twitchy and super agile. So it's definitely worth thinking about upgrading your stem if you feel like you have a long stem on your bike. If your bike feels a little unstable or wobbly, shorter stem's gonna make your bike feel a lot more in control, or you more in control of your bike. So to stop this bike up top, Collective gives you the Shimano Acera hydraulic disc brakes front and rear. So these are 2-finger brake levers, which can be angled out. You can pull out the reach or bring in the reach however you feel fit. The bleeding of the brake is also going to make the brake feel a little softer or a little harder, however you see fit as well. And then up front here on the fork, we have a 29-inch Suntour XUE30 suspension fork. So this fork has 100mm of travel, so that's how much space that the stanchions here are going to go into the lowers. So it's not a super high travel fork, so it keeps the head angle down, so it makes the bike feel a lot flatter. So if you put more travel, it picks up the head angle, and you're going to be a little more lean back. So this bike with 100mm of travel is meant to be a little more sporty. Meaning riding in the street and off-road. Collective also gives you a lockout on the fork, so you can lock out your suspension completely. You do not have to have it open all the time, so it doesn't have to be bouncy. You can lock it out, and your fork is now rigid. It will not compress. So if you feel like you want to go a little faster, you can lock it out. If you feel like you want to get a little soft, you can put it kind of in between or fully open if you're going off-roading. So that's a really nice option to have. And then with the wheels down here, we have a 29-inch wheel. Starting with the tire, Collective gives you the Kenda Quick tire. This is a 29 2.0 tire. The Kenda Quick tire is actually a nice tire. I actually have it on one of my bikes. So it is a 75 PSI max. I actually didn't double check that. I'm double checking now. This is a 80 PSI max tire. So at 80 PSIs, this 2.0 tire is going to feel really fast, really low rolling resistance. It has no tread on it, so it's really smooth. And you can run this tire up as low as like 45, 50 PSI. If you want a little more traction, the tire will kind of spread out a little more. It'll give you a little more grip riding on the road. And then the rim itself is a 25mm wide double wall aluminum rim. It's Collective branded rim. So it's a pretty wide and strong rim. And then we have a loose ball bearing quick release hub in the middle. That's what's holding everything together. So it's a pretty decent hub. If you ride your bike a lot and you get really aggressive, a sealed ball bearing hub can take a little more abuse, by the way. Stopping your bike, Collective gives you 160 millimeter rotors. These are steel rotors. You have 7 metallic brake pads in the bottom. This is your Tektro Acera hydraulic disc brake. Jumping to the back, Collective gives you the same Kenda Quick tire, 29 2.0, same 25 millimeter wide rim, same quick release loose ball bearing hub, same Acera disc brake with a 160 millimeter rotor. Jumping to the drivetrain, you have actually a really nice drivetrain on here. So this is the Pro bike. Let's keep that in mind. This is the 10-speed drivetrain. So it has 10 speeds in the front, single in the front. So it has no gears in the front. So holding this together, we have the Shimano Dior Shadow Plus lockout derailleur. This is a clutch derailleur. So a clutch derailleur isn't gonna allow your chain to fall off in the front if you have nothing holding it, because it keeps everything really stiff. It's hard to push. And then if we will say we want to open it up and we want to release the tension, we can open up that lever and now we can move your derailleur. But we're gonna keep it locked so the next person that gets on it, chain doesn't fall off on them. So the spread in the back is an 1134. An 1134 is a really big spread. An 11 tooth cog is gonna be really hard to pedal. So that's gonna be the one where if you really wanna get some momentum, you can drop it onto your 11, or the 34 is for climbing. Ironically, we also have a 34 tooth sprocket in the front. On that sprocket, we have the SRAM Dub SX cranks. This is actually a really nice crankset. They're full aluminum crank arms with a steel chainring. The steel chainring can take a little more abuse and it won't wear out as fast as the aluminum chainring will. And it is a little thinner, so it actually looks kind of cool. The SRAM Dub has a really big bottom bracket, so it's a 2-piece crank, so it keeps everything really stiff, yet lightweight. And these are 170 millimeter reach crank arms, which also make a big difference when you're really getting busy on your bike, when you're doing combos, you're trying to do wheelies, or just jumping around. The crank arm makes a big difference. 170 millimeter reach is kind of the sweet spot. And then you get Welgo platform pedals on here. These are aluminum pedals. They do have grip on them, so you won't be sliding around. They're decent pedals. I usually suggest in most of my videos to upgrade pedals, but these pedals are actually pretty decent. The only thing I would suggest upgrading would be the grips. And then we're jumping up top here. Collective gives you a pretty basic seat, to be honest. So this seat, I didn't measure it. We have a 280 millimeter long seat, and it's 104 millimeters wide. This seat's pretty basic. It's not really good for much except for just casual riding, but it does not have a lot of padding in it. It's a pretty stiff seat. It's a long seat. It's not very wide as well. Definitely upgrade the seat. And that wraps it up for the Collective C100. If you guys want to check it out, you can always stop by your local Collective bikes dealer in the US. If you guys have any questions or concerns, please don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. It always helps show full support for your local bike shop. And thank you.